Hello everyone, Happy New Year from all of us at GamerSlice, and welcome to the December 2017 edition of the GamerSlice Show. This is our second podcast reboot, and hopefully we'll stick with it this time. I think we made some changes that you'll like. Also, the podcast will be coming out, at least we're aiming for it to come out the last weekend of every month, and also let us know if there's any things you want us to talk about in future episodes. So I am joined here today by Marshall.
Hello.
John.
Hola.
And Diego.
I'm not here by choice. Someone call someone. They hijacked my house.
I volunteered him, sort of. Alrighty then. So yeah, we're going to cover a lot of stuff in this podcast today. Try to make it within an hour. We have to make it within an hour. So we're going to talk about our top 3 games of the year. Worst game we played this year. We're going to talk a bit about VR since 2 of us have owned VR headsets. Got them this year, and we've all played it. And we're going to talk about movies, our movie of the year, and some movie trends, our tabletop game of the year, and some game industry trends in 2017 highlights. So, I'm going to start here with Marshall. What is your number 3 game of the year?
Number 3 game of the year. Well, since I've only played 3 games this year that have come out this year, number 3 would have to be Jackbox Party Box 4 Box 4.
All right, guys, you got that.
Dash 4.
It's the newest Jackbox. It's got 3 new games in it, and 1 returning champion, Fibbage. It's got Monster Meeting Monster, which is fun if you have a large group. It's got help me out here. What were the other games?
There's the
Internet one.
There's Surviving the Internet, where you twist people's answers to make funny internet posts.
That sounds brilliant.
My personal favorite.
John's personal favorite.
What's the other one that's similar to that?
There's some other stuff, but with my limited list, it made top 3. Yay! Am I reading number 2 right now? Am I just going up the list?
Okay. Now we're gonna move on to John for number 3.
Okay.
What?
I did enjoy that one.
The format of it.
Number 3, I have Space Engineers. I'm not really sure if it came out this year. There's only one I know came out this year.
No, that's why we
Wow.
did that list. Yeah.
Anyway, I really like Space Engineers. It's a good game. I don't really play it anymore, but it's fun.
All right. Diego?
Well, I guess if I had to pick one that came out this year, it would definitely have to be For Honor. I've enjoyed the...
Is that your number 3 then? Or?
I'm just going to list 3 games. They're not going to be in any particular
Okay, that's fine.
order.
We'll just do it specific. For me, personally, it's in order.
Okay, so
Diego's are in order.
Well,
Carry on.
is For Honor's number 3? I don't know. You can just list 3 games that you...
Okay,
top 3 games.
starting at number 3, probably... Is it still muted?
No, it's not muted.
It's
The
not
solid
muted.
light is not
We got it
muted.
this time. Got some
These are
prime
candid
comedy
responses because we're mad at Jared.
This
Now
is
continue,
pretty-
Diego,
Sure, the
please.
audience is mad at
here. It's not all my fault, guys.
It
Yes, it
most
is.
definitely
It would
is.
not have happened if it wasn't for me, though. So you guys can thank me for this piece of shit podcast.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's good. Okay, so
Diego, please continue,
Okay,
please.
yes. For Honor, yes. I love the combat system so far, and frankly, they're definitely improving it greatly with each update I'm seeing. And they're even going to add dedicated servers pretty soon. I don't know the exact date, but they got to try them out in a beta. And
it's gonna be really good for the PC community.
I loved the dedicated servers. They ran really smoothly. Everything felt almost easier. Just in every way, it felt great.
So they've already experimented with them, though.
Yeah, they had a beta for the dedicated.
Okay, so you notice a big difference then
Yes.
between the peer-to-peer.
Yes,
Okay,
there's
yeah.
a big difference.
I know you've been doing a lot of good customization with that too. Had a lot.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun making the characters pop, I guess. Yeah, to my liking.
Diego's characters certainly pop.
Definitely Poppy.
All right, so my number 3, if I'm allowed to use a demo, I mean it's a podcast, okay, but it would be Nier Automata. I am planning on playing the game this year. It's gonna go in the top 10 games of 2017, probably, but I still have not finalized this list, so none of mine are completely final. But as of right now, these are the top 3.
Jared's number 3 is based on a demo.
The demo.
It's just a demo.
Yes. The demo, like, okay, so I already explained this in another video that may or may not even go up on the channel. But basically, the demo just really surprised me. It was beyond my expectations, and I thought it was going to be a top 10 game. But after playing the demo, I have a feeling the game could be number 1. It could take the number 1 spot. But right now it's at 3. If I can't use a demo, it would be Dishonored: Death of the Outsider. And that one is pretty good. I think you could make the argument that it is the best Dishonored game to date, purely because it's really focused, and the characters are pretty interesting. Plays Billy Lurk and all that, and kind of ties in with the books. But more on that in the top 10 games of 2017 and or the review comes out. So now, Marshall, what's your number 2?
My number 2, narrowly beating out Jackbox's PUBG,
Woo!
which actually came out this month. I bought it a long time ago and then stopped playing it, but they updated it with the new version that came out, new map, new guns. It doesn't lag like a real piece of shit anymore.
Maybe it'll work on my rig now.
Maybe Jared can actually play with us. PUBG number 2, narrowly beating out Jackbox 4. John, what's your number 2?
My number 2 is From the Depths. It's a nice little indie game which has voxel-based building, much like Space Engineers. It's really fun to play. There's a lot of player creations, even if you don't want to build your own craft. You can build spaceships, submarines, normal ships that go on the ocean, airplanes, and you can even customize AI within the game and give it certain orders and priorities and stuff like that. So it's a really cool little game, and you can go as deep into it as you want, as detailed as you want to go. And if you're a big fan of building stuff in Minecraft, you might like it.
That was dangerous, man.
All right, Diego.
All right, this one didn't necessarily come out in 2017, but considering the massive update it had, it's practically always a new game with a massive update. It's gonna be War Thunder, just because, frankly, I cannot believe every time I play it that it's free. Just it's so customizable. There's so much content, and if you have any interest in military vehicles whatsoever, it is a fun game to play.
Yeah, I think it's a game that the way the business model works is because people are just so passionate about the game. So even the business model does not try to nickel and dime you to death. It doesn't try to incentivize you to buy stuff that much. But if you really like the game, it's good to just give the developers money for it and get some unique rewards in the process.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
This is the third year in a row you've declared it the game of the year, right, Diego?
Well,
when did I do it last time?
It's been the game of the century, correct?
For
It
me,
is.
kinda. It's
It's-
not my number 1, but
if it came out this year, because I think there might have been an official release or something for this year.
I mean,
It might have been
for
beta
2017.
But if that's the case, it's free to play game.
How many hours do you have in it, Diego?
Oh, I think he keeps track of that.
I'm trying to see if I can count that high.
Rough estimate.
I'd say at
estimate?
least 2,000.
At least a very much amount. All right.
There's without a premium account, I have almost all the jets for the U.S. faction.
This takes a long time.
If you ever
It takes
played
a
that
long
game,
time.
that's a long ass time,
Yeah,
right?
I've been tier 3 for 5 years.
I think the progression is fine, though. I mean, John, I know, has some gripes with the research points.
It used to be fine in beta. It's not fine anymore.
Progression is unplayable, in my opinion. It takes you 400 years to move up, while your biplane is being
Or-
attacked by jets.
Depends on how much you enjoy the game, then.
That can't
Me and
happen
Diego,
much.
though, we enjoy it.
This is when I play with him.
Oh.
You're doing a custom match?
Yeah,
He's
if you
pointing to John, by
partner
the
with
way.
somebody who's higher than you, you're in a biplane with jets, damn it.
Yeah.
It sucks. Game sucks.
I've almost got enough silver lines for the last U.S. jet, and that one is going to be so
Nice.
You
fun.
get it. You
Well,
War Thunder.
we'll see if you get it by the January podcast, and then you can tell us how much fun it is.
I would love to do
I know you
one
do.
of John's little custom matches and just shred him.
Yeah.
Just for
Good
We
luck.
will do that sometime.
really, really. Bring it on, John.
All right.
Prop.
So moving on, my number 2 is Horizon Zero Dawn. I have not finished the game this year, but from what I played of it, I really enjoyed
He
it.
hasn't finished
I'm
it.
planning on finishing it before the
Not
top
any of
10
these
one.
legitimate games, Jared.
I think through the
a
story,
demo, a game you
about
haven't
halfway.
finished.
Hey, look, you don't have to finish it. I'm sure you don't finish.
I finished
your
Jackbox.
games.
I have finished PUBG.
Not a campaign.
I've played all of PUBG.
Hey, I finished Space Engineers from the depths.
Diego, as is said, has finished War Thunder.
Yeah,
So, I mean, come on.
all right. So yeah, it's Horizon Zero Dawn. I think only reason it's holding it that back from immediate number one at the moment has to do with the fact that it opens up the world to you pretty quick, so you can do like all the side stuff. And I've kind of done most of the side stuff, but the story I haven't done much on that. But the progression throughout, like the progression is very natural, I think, because as you explore, you encounter larger and larger dinosaur robots and take them on. But I don't like how there's
one dinosaur one.
Well, when you first encounter a Thunderjaw, like it's scary as shit.
I know,
and then later you learn how to fight it, and that is really cool. But I mean, there's quite a variety of them. I'd say there's
more like deer and rhinos.
There's over 20 variety of different robots. Robot dinosaurs.
Getting the impression Diego was unimpressed.
Well, I think it was the story, right? Was it the story that didn't? Really...
No, it wasn't the story. But I mean, I didn't really care for it either too much. I had some like, ooh, what is like? Are they gonna find out like how humanity was before? That was my big question.
Yeah, exactly.
But like, other than that, like...
So you finished the game?
No, I didn't. I got bored.
He's probably further in the main story than I am, but I've done...
A rave review! No one has finished the game at the table!
What about the combat?
Unfinishable.
It was okay, but just like, I remember like seeing my first wild boar, and I thought, oh, alright, I'll just insta-kill this, because I have like this super high-tech bow. Take one shot at it, and it's like, oh... You did 30 damage. And I'm like, oh, it's that kind of game.
What's an RPG? But I mean, I think the combat is one of the most in-depth combat systems of this year. So yeah, it works really well. There's lots of different tools you can have. The crafting system, though, on the other hand, it's kind of generic. It's kind of generic. It's kind of like generic, where there's like common, rare, and then like legendary, all that stuff. I don't like the way the crafting system works too much of the game. It's serviceable, but I think it could use some work. And the other thing I will say is the story. I've heard that it ramps up towards the end, but it does start out kind of slow, and it's not like the dialogue at first is a bit iffy, but except for in like the first scene with the Aloy's guardian character, he's really a really great character. The rest and some of the other like elders and something, but Aloy, kind of not quite sure if you're gonna like her, but I think over time she starts warming up to you. Well, just
you warm up to her, Jared.
Warm up to her,
She's a computer program.
Well, no, it's just like her character. I think the voice acting
was
gets
coming
better
on to
and
him.
stuff.
Voiced by a real human, I suppose. Maybe, I don't know. I've never played it.
More on that in the top 10 games of 2017. Okay, Marshall, what is your game of the year?
Game of the year, I just recently played it. It's Batman Arkham City! Once again, taking my top number one.
Didn't come out this year, but we are fudging a little bit.
It most certainly came out one of these years, and it is certainly better than anything I've played this year. Honorable mention to Warhammer 2, I guess.
Honestly, though, if we were counting like anything and like Batman, I put Batman in this list. Batman would probably be number one as well. So it's a good year for games, though, but like consistently good, I think. But didn't have any super. Well, it did have some smash hits, but not as.
Now I don't even know what counts anymore for this darn list.
All right, John.
My number one of the year is Battlestar Galactica Deadlock. Now, you who have been fans of the podcast for several years now know that I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan. And when I heard there was a strategy game coming out for Battlestar Galactica, I was psyched. Now, it is about the first Cylon War, because, I mean, the second Cylon War was lost pretty quickly, but you have to watch the show to know
totally.
that. But,
spoilers.
It's a really great game. I love commanding battleships in space. Even if you've ever just wanted to command a battleship in space and, like, fire on the enemy or whatever, it's worth a shot. It definitely has probably the best combat system of any game that came out in 2017 by far.
So it's an RTS, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's sort of turn-based. It's sort of a mix.
It pauses.
Okay, that's cool. Nice mix. Okay, Diego, Game of the Year?
All right.
Or not necessarily Game of the Year.
Game of the Year. Fine. I'll just... This one...
Well, you can declare Game of the Year 3 after.
Fine. Injustice 2 for me.
Nice.
Just because I haven't been playing it lately, but I definitely have been thinking about it a lot, and I want to get back into it. Sadly, none of these fools will challenge me on it.
Because you're gonna kick our ass.
It's just
I don't own it, Diego.
Oh, still depressing.
That's my excuse.
So the armor system, tell us a little bit how the armor works and how they balance that.
Okay. Well, basically, the armor system is, it's always pros and cons style, where you can either make a character who is perfectly rounded in every aspect, or you can make him super hard hitting, but like a glass cannon, I should say. Or you can make him all defense, but he doesn't hit very hard. There is a new thing they added in an update called Legendary Gear, which you can only have one piece of, to my knowledge. I haven't gotten any piece yet, because it takes an absolute eternity to actually get that single piece of gear. Like, it's like... it was ridiculous. I play War Thunder a lot, but darn it, that's a grind.
Level then.
That's a grind to get that single piece of
But
clothing.
there's no microtransactions in there.
Well,
for
the
that.
thing,
Well,
I like what they did, because there are
is there?
loot boxes,
Oh, they
but
are, okay.
but the only ones you can actually purchase with real money are the cheap ones that don't actually get you very good stuff. Like in the ones that get you actual good stuff, you have to earn. You have to earn those.
That's nice to see that they didn't screw people over that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, also you can also queue separately, so if you're worried about like having other people having better armor, you can actually do in a separate queue if you don't want the armor stats to apply and all that.
Actually, no. I don't
really
remember if
nice,
it
right?
was a queue. I think you
You
have to ask the other guy, like, can we do it without stats?
Okay, yeah, so it's that's good too, because then it doesn't split the player base initially as much.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a case by case basis. So, okay, very nice. Okay, so my game of the what is your game of the year out of those three then? I guess.
I thought that was an order for me.
Is that okay? I was
So
just
just
clarifying. if you had
Injustice
that in
2,
order.
I guess.
Justice 2, game of the year for Diego. Okay, my game of the year is a little game called Doki Doki Literature Club. Now,
Oh boy.
you can't talk about this game too much without going into spoilers, but let's just say that on the Steam page, the first tag is psychological horror. So, and it is there for a reason, but I would just describe this game as a animated dating simulator, but with a twist. So if you're somebody that doesn't like normal animated dating simulators, I would still say give this one a try, because I think it'll have some surprises in there for you. And anything else I should say about it? Well, let's just say it will mess with your mind, but not in like I think in a way that you'll probably appreciate and like really enjoy the time spent with it. Plus, from what I can tell, it's got enormous replay value and a lot of hidden secrets. So, and it's free, guys. So just trust me, you're gonna want to play it. You've probably seen big YouTubers playing it as well. Fortunately, I got in before a bunch of the big YouTubers, so that was cool.
He was ahead of the curve
I
with
was
this
ahead of the curve with this one.
free dating sim.
He did
Yes.
it before it was cool.
But yeah, because I heard it from one of our other friends who's not on this podcast. But anyways, yeah, just go out and play it, guys. It is an experience. I'll say that much.
Mm-hmm.
All right, now what was your guys' worst game you played this year? It doesn't have to come out this year, but just worst game or most disappointing game.
Worst game of the year would have to be Doki Doki Literature Club.
You didn't
This
enjoy it
free
as much.
game has the audacity to charge you for DLC. What is the DLC? I think it's a bloody soundtrack.
And I bought it. Well, soundtrack, wallpapers,
This
stuff
nut.
like that.
He paid
I bought
for
it.
wallpapers.
I don't plan
The
on
dumbest
using
thing.
any of it. I don't plan on using it. I just bought it because I thought the game was so good. And it was free. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna give this developer money. They deserve it.
Ridiculous. The game isn't even fun.
Well,
It blows its load halfway through, and then you're just kind of, please, finish, please. Doki Doki Literature
All
Club.
right.
Worst game of
dissenting opinions
2017.
here.
John?
I don't know. I'm trying to think. I have no idea.
Did you play Bad Rats this year, Joe?
I haven't played Bad Rats this year.
Oh, you did. You went back to it. Oh, that might be it then.
I mean, in a pinch, I might say Doki Doki.
Well,
'Cause
you haven't.
I never finished it.
Yeah, you haven't finished it, so you haven't got to like anything the game's really about though. Yeah,
I
the
mean,
game.
I could
I will
say
say
it's-
the biggest fault with the game is it doesn't ramp up or go anywhere like halfway through, and the
I
game's
mean,
like 4 or 5 hours.
I would call it unfinishable.
The flood mode for Gary's mod. That's the worst game you've played. That stuff doesn't work, damn. The boat's all janky. It's programmed.
You can't even
garbage.
stand on the boat. You fall off and you die.
You put two vending machines together. Why can't I stand on it? I don't know. It's
You
ridiculous.
spend 20 minutes building a boat. It falls apart. You drown. You don't even get to stand on your boat.
It's whoever drowns slowest. It's garbage.
Okay, Diego stepped away for a second, so I'll say what my worst game of the year is. I have not played a lot of bad games this year, but it is Mass Effect Andromeda. There's been enough information about it. I don't think I really need to explain why it's my worst game, but the gameplay is not the worst part about it, but it is not as good as other Mass Effect games, in my opinion. Okay, Diego, what's
I
your...
think you barely scratched the surface of that one.
I will be fair. Also, it had terrible performance on PC, so I barely touched it. I played like the first few story missions.
Okay, so I had to check over my list over here, but I finally realized which one was my worst because I completely forgot about it. Was Star Wars Battlefront 2. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
you actually bought that.
Because like the thing is that
I didn't even see you playing it once.
I played the beta. I thought the beta was pretty fun, but for some reason when the game came out, I did the campaign. The campaign was okay.
It's kind of
It was I liked certain aspects, but it didn't feel like the campaign didn't feel very much like any Battlefront campaign I ever played. It felt more like a very simplified Battlefield campaign, but like with less open areas.
Yeah, I played the beta and I was definitely unimpressed, especially because I had a really good time playing the first one's beta, and I ended up buying the first one just off the beta, which I played for like 8 hours, and I had a fantastic time with that. But I didn't enjoy the second beta at all. It felt really shallow to me, and that's not even counting the loot boxes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Maybe if I tried the campaign, maybe I'd be a little bit different, but I don't know. It didn't seem to hold up very well.
I'll say I was on board with Star Wars Battlefront 2 up until like last month or two. Before that, I just basically completely boycotted the game. I would have bought it otherwise if they didn't have the loot box crap.
For me, the
Knows
thing
whether or
that's
not I would like
annoying
them.
is that like for all we know, EA is gonna do like EA is like didn't get like the most downvoted like
Reddit post of all
Reddit
time,
post.
yeah.
And the thing is, they're just gonna come up with some new. It's not gonna have it's probably gonna be titled Bad Company or something like that. And then everyone's gonna
the game-
forget everything about Star Wars Battlefront and be like, "Oh yeah, post it!" Like or just like Bad Company, the new one's out now. Like Rip COD, etc. You know, even though that's not gonna happen, but still.
Well, it'd be kind of cool if they did. Also, speaking of Bad Company, in terms of like awards for a Bad Company, EA had won Worst Company of the Year like a few years back, but I don't know what the results are in yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if they win this year as well. I mean, it's not really much of an accomplishment though, so it's a demerit rather than an award.
I mean, sometimes EA gets treated a little unfairly. All they want to do is make tons of money and create terrible games.
Exactly. Point taken.
Yeah.
Okay, so which game did you guys? I already said yeah. So which game did you guys spend the most time on this year,
That's easy.
and why?
Why?
Yeah, Diego, tell us.
We'll start with Diego this time.
Well, as was made so clear before, War Thunder for me for sure.
Absolutely.
Just because it's a grind for sure, but you just gotta find a way to make the grind fun, I guess. And I have a good time. I have an easy time doing that, I
Ooh,
guess.
good review. You have to make it fun somehow.
Oh. I mean, I'm just
Listen
saying
to
you
this.
guys have trouble doing it. I don't. I just
Yeah.
basically just like every time I hear news that they're adding a new vehicle, like I just get all jittery and like yes.
I will say,
But
I don't.
you
I
started
don't get
during the beta, didn't you?
The thing was,
Yeah, he did.
That's the thing because like
Well, the PS4
the
technically
on
was the beta for
PC
everything.
on PC you could get it a long time ago, but I heard it was coming out for PS4, and I don't have a very good PC at all, and I don't think I actually have the time or place to put one good. I mean, it's a lot of factors for me not having a PC. And so I heard it was coming out for PS4, but it wasn't going to come out in North America for like another year. So what I did is I ended up making like an Australian account, and I just got it.
You made an Australian account.
Yeah, and then I
Okay.
downloaded it from there. and so I was able to play it in the US really early, and and so I started grinding from there. But I enjoyed the crap out of the game. It has come so far.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's still getting tons of great support. So, yeah, we'll be playing that more. Probably doing more content on the channel. Me and Diego have been talking about a lot of things we want to do, but so far we haven't done pretty much any of that yet. So, okay. So, John, game you spent the most time with?
I'm not sure which one I spent the most time in. I think this year I probably spent time in a lot of different games. I played a lot of Rocket League this year. I like Rocket League. I spent some time in a bunch of different VR games. Factorio, I played a lot of that just recently. Played a little bit of Battlegrounds Unknown. Since I bought Planet Coaster, I played about 9 hours in that. And I've probably spent a decent amount of time in Grand Theft Auto, Kerbal Space Program, and probably Battlefield. Actually, it might be Battlefield 4 might be my most played if you look at it overall this year. I really enjoy the Battlefield series, especially Battlefield 4. I feel like it did a good job with the progression system, so you feel like you can still continue to unlock stuff. It can be a little frustrating when there are hackers playing and they'll get I think the most I saw was 100 kills and 0 deaths. And sometimes the vehicles get really annoying, like the attack helicopter. Because if you get somebody who's good enough in the attack helicopter, they can just control the whole game, basically. So yeah.
Marshall, for you?
My most played game is probably Dota 2. Steam says I have 3,000 hours in it. So I'm assuming it's what I played most this year.
And I think a little over 1,000 of that was just this year at least.
I mean, I don't know.
Probably. Because I checked it was 1,800 a year ago, I think. Maybe. I don't know.
Who can say? I've been playing it for years.
Yeah, let's see. So, okay. Yeah, for me, the game I spent the most time is probably going to be Overwatch. I didn't get it until this year. I got it during the anniversary event. But, yeah, played a lot of it. The competitive, can sometimes feel a bit like RNG. And you can't build good team comps. But you find good people to group up with. You can actually climb and have a lot of fun. Especially towards the end of Season 7. I had a lot of fun with some of the people I grouped up with. So, yeah. Plus, they're really expanding the esports support and different spectating tools and all that stuff for it. So, game's being supported quite well as also. Okay, now we're going to shift gears a little bit and talk about some VR. So, I guess for this one, I'm going to start with the two people that actually own the VR headsets, starting with the person who's owned it the longest, with John. So, just, give us some general impressions and then go down the list. What's good, what needs work, and then best or favorite VR game.
All right. So I'll start with what's good. VR it's pretty fun to play.
Oh, we should also mention John is playing on the Oculus, has an Oculus.
Yeah.
And Diego has the PlayStation VR.
The Oculus headset by itself is not super impressive. What is impressive is when you use it with the motion controllers. I would say don't get VR unless you're going to get motion controllers with it. The Oculus has a lot of strengths concerning first-person shooters, especially. Pretty much any gun game on the Oculus that I've played is a good time. There are also a couple indie games that I played that stand out. One of them is called Climby. The other one is called Pavlov VR, which is sort of a gun game, but it's got a multiplayer community that's active, and so you can usually hop into a multiplayer game pretty much anytime you want. It's not a super lot of players online, but enough to fill, maybe 1 or 2 servers of 10 people, which the maps are pretty small, so that works out. I would say that probably the biggest weakness in VR is that there's not a lot of good games out there, which is kind of surprising. I don't think that they'd be super hard to develop, and I think the proof of that is that a lot of publishers are now converting older games into VR, which is sort of exciting. I'm looking forward to...
LA Noire looks really, really good. And
LA
Super Hot
looks
VR
good.
is really good.
I'm looking forward to Skyrim in VR. I'll probably give that a shot. I would say Fallout 4, but I had bought Fallout 4 and the performance on my PC without VR was very, very poor. which I was really disappointed because I was hoping that there'd be a Fallout game, a new Fallout game that I could play at 60 FPS and have a lot of fun in. I definitely enjoyed Fallout 3 and some of the past games. So the weakness, I'd say, is definitely in the games. If you do get it, I would probably get maybe at least one AAA title for it, and then maybe search for some cheaper indie games on Steam, like $10 a pop, that sort of thing. Some of them are kind of poor, but there are some gems in there if you look for them.
I kind of think you gotta, like, at the moment, VR games, a lot of people try to like rate them on a different scale. Like, we're not like here. I don't know if a VR game would do my top 3 of the year. They're starting to get up there, but it seems like when people talk about them, it's like, here's VR games, here's the rest of video games.
Another sort of flaw in it is I don't think the technology is quite there yet. I think the resolution is just a little too low. If they could double the resolution and increase performance, which I know you can't really do both at the same time, but if they could manage to do that in the next like 5 or 10 years, we could be looking at something really special here.
Right. So Diego, what's your general impressions of PSVR?
Well, I was pleasantly surprised. It was better than I thought it was going to be. But as John said, there's not an incredible amount of selection out there, at least right now. I've had to look into it a bit more, and I did see some today that I might consider purchasing just to give them a try. I'd have to look more into them now, though. Though there have been a few gems though that I've found that were quite enjoyable. But if I had to say anything about VR, it's not something that I feel you could easily do like every day, I guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's sort of like I said, the strength is in the motion controls, but a lot of those games, you come home from work or whatever, you're tired, you may not want to do the motion controls. I would say I probably play it, about once a week on average.
Yeah, especially something like soundboxing is really intensive.
Yeah, it's
like,
soundboxing is basically a workout game. It's really fun though.
So, PSVR and Oculus, I guess let's just compare them. Like, from my experience, I think PSVR and Oculus are much closer in comparison than I thought. I think PSVR, most of the games are at a slightly lower resolution, but for me, it doesn't bother me. And I think maybe even lower frame rate, because I know John was saying he was getting nauseous with some of the PSVR stuff, but not so much with the Oculus stuff. Controller-wise, I think the Oculus controllers, they are shaped more like guns, as John's brought up, and I've used them. So they work especially better for shooter games, and they also have joysticks on them. But I do not think that they are properly using the joysticks as well as they could, because they should be able to have it where it's just like a console controller, and you can use the right stick to look around and the left stick to move, or just have the left stick or right stick interchangeably to move, and then the headset look around.
Well, I mean, that depends on the game.
Yeah, but it doesn't
entirely.
shift your body very well. Like, you have to. That's another thing. The shift, rotating your character. A lot of times you press a button, it rotates 45 degrees. That sometimes needs a bit of work, because sometimes you'll do something and then you'll get off centered, and even though you rotate 90 degrees, it rotates you more than 90 degrees or something.
Yeah, it is very important when you're searching for a VR game to figure out how the controls work exactly. I don't prefer the teleporting games where you teleport around. I like smooth movement, but that makes some people sick, so it's sort of a personal preference thing.
Yeah, also in teleporting, like Batman Arkham VR, another good VR game, that one uses teleportation, but it only allows you to teleport to certain spots. I think it works for that game, but for most other games, if you are going to use teleporting, you should allow people to teleport just wherever. And controller-wise, though, also, I think the other thing that the Oculus controller has going for it over the PSVR controller, I found it a bit odd at first, but there is a grip button to pick up stuff. With the PSVR controller, you just push the trigger, it toggles it, you grab something, and then for a gun, and then you just pull the trigger again to shoot, and then you have to press the middle, the main button on the controller to drop it. But for Oculus, there's actually a grip button that you have to hold down, which allows you to grip it, and then a trigger separately that you use to shoot or do a thing. And this is, that applies to other games, even Climby seems like utilizes that.
I did have a bit of trouble with that, though, just because I kept dropping the gun on accident just because I kept confusing the grip of the trigger once in a while.
Yeah. I think it takes some good. As I said, it was kind of weird for me at first, but after after playing with it a bit, I think it's actually better. It adds a little more realism to the game. So, we could talk about this more. We'll probably be talking about VR quite a bit through the coming years, but I guess let's just wrap up our VR discussion here. And what was your guys' favorite, for all of you, Marshall, Diego, all of you guys, what was your favorite VR game that you played?
Oh, that's a toughie. I think in the end I might have to settle for Batman VR, but it definitely has competition.
Yeah.
For me personally, I think it's a tie between two indie games I've played so far. One of them is called Climby. It's a game where you sort of simulate rock climbing, but it doesn't have very good graphics, but I enjoy it a lot. It's challenging, and players can create their own maps for it. And the second one is the game called Soundboxing, which we mentioned earlier. Basically, you can look up a song on YouTube, and it'll have sort of motion controls, almost like Just Dance, but maybe a bit less professional. And players can make sort of playthroughs for different songs. So pretty much any song that you want, you can either create your own playthrough for it, or it already exists. And that game is really fun. Very challenging, though, depending on what song you choose. And it can be a bit tiring.
All right, Marshall.
My favorite's probably Soundboxing. A lot of games make me sick because of the motion, especially on the PlayStation. But Soundboxing doesn't require you to walk around an environment and then make you throw up. So
yeah, Battlezone in particular, guys. If you pick the light tank, beware. Could get nauseous.
I don't know. I was always used to that sort of feeling. I guess low frame rate, everything. I grew up with it all my life, so it never made me nauseous or anything like that.
You merely adopted the frame rate, Batman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So my VR game of the year is kind of a tough one, but in the end, I decided I'd go with PlayStation VR Worlds. A part of it too is because it's kind of like a glorified demo disc or demo game, but it's only $20, and it's got 5 different games.
Did you look it up? Because
my favorite of which is London Heist. I think it's got 7 chapters. It's cool, and of course there's other VR games that do the things that it does slightly better. But I think as a collective package for the price, this is really good, especially for an entry level game. But I have a feeling if I played more of Super Hot VR, that's probably coming in. That's definitely coming in at second right now. That would probably be my number 1, followed by Batman Arkham VR, but also Robo Recall. I didn't get the chance to play it yet, but that one and LA Noire to me look like they could be competing for the number 1 game on the market.
Yeah, I think if Jared had more experience in Oculus, he would probably change his mind a lot. I haven't played a lot in PlayStation VR, to be fair, but I think from what I've seen and played, I think that Oculus has stronger titles overall. And that's probably due to just the PC market has more options, more games available to it than PlayStation VR might.
Okay, also, real quickly, there's one thing I wanted to mention before, but I didn't get to. But the actual headsets, the PlayStation VR, I think, is a little bit more better quality in terms of the make. The Oculus VR headset seems a bit cheaper, but both of them work well, and they're both comfortable. So honestly, I think the Oculus one might be overall is better, but that headset being made cheaper but still working fine might actually lower the overall price of it. So I think that's good for the consumer in the end.
I was surprised how comfortable that the PlayStation VR headset was. I was expecting it to be less comfortable. However,
it has padding and stuff.
It does have padding and stuff. However, I would say that it's less adjustable overall.
We're just going to move on to movie of the year now. So, Marshall, you're the big movie buff. What was your movie of the year?
John, what was your movie of the year while I think about this?
My movie of the year is probably going to be Blade Runner 2049. It has some disappointing moments because I don't think it learned as much from the mistakes of the original as it should have. However, it does that thing that older movies do that modern movies don't seem to do as much. It generates an atmosphere, and it creates this whole world and this atmosphere that really pulls you into it. And even though, you know, at times some of the shots are a little long, and maybe that could have been fixed in editing, and it's still an excellent movie. Second and third would probably be a tie between Thor Ragnarok and Atomic Blonde. Thor Ragnarok, I really enjoyed it for its humor. It was a very light take on the Marvel Universe and Thor. So it was just like a fun time in the theaters. And Atomic Blonde, I was pleasantly surprised by that movie. It's probably one of my favorite spy movies. And it's nice to have a female protagonist play a super spy for once and do a good job. Something that's not
I
like a
almost
comedy.
feel like that's happening. Maybe you're right. He just did a good job.
Yeah,
I
probably.
can't recall one per se, but just I almost feel
I guess it's kind of like Charlie's Angels.
just-
That's like.
Yeah, Charlie's
it just
Angels,
doesn't
which
feel
isn't
like-
exactly...
part of me
Yeah.
just doesn't want to feel like this is the first time.
I still got to see Atomic Blonde though.
Number one is definitely Blade Runner. I forgot, but John reminded me. That means it's definitely number one because I forgot it existed. Really love the blouse. Gotta love the holographic girlfriends. I like that in the end he really didn't matter at all. And
Spoilers.
number two, it's got to be Get Out.
You guys don't have
Instant
to do-
classic.
Oh, it's really
I'm talking, Jared. And instant classic, excellent direction, funny and scary at the same time without being like overly horror to alienate people. It was quite excellent.
I haven't seen Get Out for the record, so...
John's a snob, and he didn't watch Logan either,
Or
Oh,
Baby Driver.
yes.
or Baby Driver, which
I
is my
haven't seen
number
Baby
3
Driver
because
yet.
I just remembered the Baby Driver came out this year.
I didn't watch Logan though because I knew it was going to be a sad movie, and I don't like going to movies that are sad.
So, well, here's the thing. I'll say something about Blade Runner. Blade Runner, I think, is possibly the best movie of the year. However, I did not enjoy it that much. Like, if I were to review it, I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10, but it's not high up there
So better than Fury Road.
on my personal enjoyment. Better than Fury Road!
Number one is definitely
That's
Fury
an
Road.
inside joke, guys.
shaking.
If
I
any
love
of-
Fury Road for the record, by the way.
If any of you guys
there's a
ever
history with
comment
that.
on any of our videos whatsoever,
Yeah.
always remember.
If I give something an 8 out of 10 or higher,
no,
it's-
over 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
Well,
The
okay.
score
Is
he
better
gave
than
Fury
Fury
Road
Road.
that's part of the. Well,
as he left the theater, a 6 out of 10. Don't forget.
my official score now, though, is an 8 out of 10, guys. So this went up quite a bit,
No.
but
Still low.
The fans
Yeah.
will always know you for that 6 out of 10.
so we'll
So
see.
If
I'm a huge Mad Max fan, guys.
If-
Mad Max is my favorite
You
movie.
like
for
the
him.
Hitman's Bodyguard more. You gave that a
Oh,
9, I think.
shoot. I
Yeah,
forgot.
9. Oh
I
my
forgot about
goodness.
that.
here's the thing.
And he
If
forgot
you-
about it.
Well, for this thing,
Ridiculous.
If you hear him review anything at all, and he gives it a better than 6 out of 10, you just type in the comment better than Fury
Better
Road.
than Fury
Okay,
Road.
that'll be a thing for our channel. I'm down for that though. I'm okay with that joke. So my movie of the year is Thor Ragnarok. In fact, and Spider-Man: Homecoming and Logan are really close to that. Last Jedi though would probably be the one that I'd put in third. Spider-Man: Homecoming being second, and then Logan being fourth. But Thor Ragnarok, I mean, I've enjoyed a lot more of the superhero movies this year than I initially did, just because there's a lot more of them that I enjoyed than I thought. But Thor Ragnarok, it does the humor aspect really well, and I think that really elevates the movie. It's very comic booky in that regard, and very cheesy in some ways, but it's also a very colorful movie, and the villain is at least moderately interesting this time compared to other superhero villains this year. So
Particular. But anyway,
definitely looking to more movies from that director, because he does.
Do not disgrace Steppenwolf.
Well,
He
'cause
was boring as they come.
What's the director's name
how
for
did you
Thor
know I was
Ragnarok?
going to say Steppenwolf?
Well, because the other choices was Ares, who was incredibly boring as well,
Yeah.
or Vulture, who was actually really good. So, I mean, Steppenwolf. Ugh.
Yeah, so I mean, who is the director though for Thor Ragnarok? I can't remember.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, so he did Hunt for the Wilder People, which I absolutely love. 10 out of 10. One of the best comedy movies I've seen in years. It's, action or adventure comedy.
I think it's Wilder, not Wilder.
It's Wilder.
It's Wilder?
Yeah, and then he also did What Remains in the Shadows. That was really good. And there's one other movie I think he did that's pretty popular that I also like. So basically, this director, he's golden. Everything by him so far has been amazing. So look forward to what he's doing in the future. Okay, Diego?
I guess I would probably just say personally, Spider-Man: Homecoming. I loved Thor Ragnarok, but at the same time, personally, I feel that I wouldn't buy it. I mean, like I enjoyed seeing it in the theaters, but I don't think it's the type of movie I care to see again.
Doesn't scale down as well.
I guess.
Yeah,
that's
a lot of Marvel movies have that feeling for me. Like, it's really good time in the theater, but I don't know if I want to see it again or purchase it.
Because there's also lots of special effects.
The ones that I did buy that I did enjoy again, like I did like Winter Soldier. That one I bought. Most of the Captain America movies, I didn't get the first one. But any movie that has, a fight scene, I would love watching again and again. You can bet I'll probably buy it.
I'm increasing the radius.
And I mean, this one I had for like Thor versus Hulk for crying out loud, but I don't know. Still, that one slightly felt anticlimactic for me.
Well, it's because kind of it's
the fight on the bridge.
Well, they did do. I think it was pretty clear who won that one though. I think like Thor just basically turned into his ultimate form. He went Super Saiyan.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like, I still don't even think the fight was vaguely left unclear, just because like even after that super punch that Thor gave Hulk didn't seem like he was about to be like knocked out or anything. Yeah. He just kind of got up surprised.
Well, they're superheroes, and I think they're both invincible.
So they're both practically so. From what we saw, though, Thor he had the cooler stuff. He kind of beat Hulk more into not into submission.
I mean, because the thing was like Hulk knocked him out one punch afterward.
I mean, I think Hulk could always defeat Thor, for the record.
For me, I always thought it was like the hammer was always the deciding factor. It was like as long as Thor had the hammer,
pick it up.
But just
barely,
like on you'd have to be careful when you say it like that because
couldn't really use it.
Yeah, he can't. The thing was that like the hammer always seemed like the deciding factor. Like as long as Thor had the hammer, he had a chance against Hulk. But without it, I always kind of stereotyped him as like no, Hulk would beat him.
Yeah. What's also interesting because you say that you probably wouldn't buy it because for me, out of all the movies this year, that I'll probably buy when they come out. Like I mean, it's Thor Ragnarok. I don't know if it's out yet, but definitely get that one. And also the fight scenes. For me, that's not the thing that really drives me to the movie. So very different, but it's good to see that that's a movie loved all around by people with different tastes. So what movie trends do you think are really prominent this year?
I think for sure they definitely seem to be trying to put more humor into movies.
Exactly.
I've also seen a trend towards they want the same person who writes it to also direct it, which is it's very true. It's hit and miss. It's hit and miss. If you get somebody who's really good at writing and directing,
George Lucas,
which is rare. It's rare for somebody to be good at both. But if you can get somebody who's good at both, you can create a masterpiece. But if you get somebody who's a good director but a poor writer, you can get a very mixed movie. And I would say that J.J. Abrams falls into that category. I think he's a great director. I don't think his writing is very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, because just by having the director and the writer the same thing, at least you preserve that creative vision most of the time. So that, I think, is the most valuable thing. That's a really good point. Also this year in movies, I think the humor is probably the biggest thing that stood out to me. More focus on that?
I don't agree on the humor.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
What you're basing this on is basically Star Wars.
No.
The new one. And what? Marvel movies that are always funny. What do we get this year? We got Get Out and Logan right at the beginning, which there's not... Get Out's some funny, but it's not...
Logan's like
it's not main funny is the point. Logan isn't funny. Blade Runner wasn't funny. Atomic Blonde wasn't funny. Orient Express wasn't funny. There's many movies that were not funny. Shape of Water wasn't funny. There's a lot...
Okay, what I'm basing it on is I think other movies that were in, like, older movies in a series, for instance, were not as funny as the movies that are coming out now.
Like Marvel. What you talking
about? Especially
because they gave it to a comedic director.
You can't ignore though. Marvel's made a lot of the movies that came out this year, and a lot of the blockbusters that came out this year.
They've made two.
I feel like
two of the movies.
A more accurate statement would be like Disney.
Disney has made three of the movies.
I still think that overall Marvel's been making a lot of movies. Maybe it's not a yearly trend. Maybe it's 2 or 3 years, but they definitely have been ramping up the humor. Guardians of the Galaxy is definitely a franchise that has been focusing more on humor. And it's definitely present in the new Star Wars movie as well. So maybe it's not every movie, but I would still say that overall we're seeing a trend towards that.
Yeah. And the last thing that I'll mention is in superhero movies, especially, sort of in the other, but in superhero movies, the villains have been, well, let's say quite weak in most of them.
One brand in particular.
Yeah, exactly. We won't say more than that.
Both of them?
well,
Yeah.
but one
Ares was crap.
Actually,
Supplemental was crap.
So, okay. Favorite tabletop game of the year, guys?
Kate Blanchett
Marshall?
was okay.
What's your favorite tabletop game
Uh,
that we played this year?
favorite tabletop game would have to be Legendary deck building game by Marvel.
Not played.
Didn't come out this year,
It's fine. No.
but an expansion came out this year, so...
I think Settlers of Catan is still kind of my number one. It's gonna take something big to knock that off.
It's the chess of board games.
It is. It's great. It takes the multiplayer and just it really uses it well. It does everything well. So
Yeah, for me it would be a game called Unearthed. We bought it for a tabletop club that we have at our college or whatever. But it's great. The thing I like about it too is it has a good amount of strategy, but it also has it's a relatively short playtime. I mean, it's like 20-30-minute games. I mean, even if you're fast, you can even do them in like 15-minute games, assuming everybody knows what they're doing. But Clank and Bang were also really good games that I played this year. And even Talisman. It's been out for a long time, but Talisman I didn't play till this year, and I really enjoyed it with that because I like pretty much anything that kind of mimics Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, so for you, Diego, favorite tabletop game?
I don't think I have one. I didn't. These guys are a lot
He's
more
not
into
too much into
tabletop
it,
things than I would. I did have some fun with you guys last time we got together.
Well, you said what's the merchant game?
The Sheriff of Nottingham.
Sheriff of Nottingham. Yeah.
I mean, I had fun because these guys are terrible liars.
Yeah, that one's pretty
When
good.
you
too.
left, I smashed them twice by not lying.
yeah, it definitely has some balance issues.
Okay, so we're going to wrap this up in a couple minutes here, but game industry trends of the year. I'll just say we got the year of the loot box. Like, this was very much the make or break year for this, as other people have said. And the big thing here, though, is I thought that it was appearing, leading up especially to the Star Wars Battlefront 2's launch and all that stuff, that it was going to be the break year, that the publishers were going to win this. But after the backlash for against EA for Battlefront 2 stuff, I actually think we might see a major turning point. A lot of publishers seem to be, the signs are pointing to them reworking a lot of their business models for games in the next year or so. And then also VR is catching on. I think you could maybe call this the year of VR. Games as a service are being a big thing as well. And then also we're seeing the AA game where there's, especially like Hellblade is a great example of a AA game. And there's even publishers, traditionally bigger publishers that are doing shorter games or like lower budget games. They're not really lower budgets, but releasing them at a cheaper price, like Dishonored, Death of the Outsider, and Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. That's a big thing we're seeing. Anything else you guys want to add to this conversation?
Nope.
No, I think we got it.
All right. So John is going to be hosting the podcast for January, so tune in last weekend in January for the next episode. You guys can leave comments and suggestions for the podcast in general or anything you've heard in this episode. And again, we wish you a Happy New Year from all of us at GamerSlice and a great year of entertainment throughout this current year in 2018. So
Thanks for
guys.
watching.
Yes, thank you.
Please like. Please.
Yes.
Please.
Please don't.
Please like.
It means we'll have to do this again.
All right, have a good one.